as you all know, in FX market, for that matter, any market, a call option is a right to buy, right? And a put option is a right to sell. This is a standard definition of any option. A call option is a right to buy and put option is a right to sell, meaning right but no obligation. Now this is where I want to highlight this in a proper way, because a lot of times we tend to gloss over this very important thing. When somebody says call option, it is right to buy, no obligation, meaning you don't need to, but you have a choice, right? Similarly, put option is right to sell, right? Now, first thing that you have to be very clear is this, that this is also important from a hedging perspective or even for a structuring an option structure, is that a call option or a put option, a right to buy is only for the holder of the option, meaning the person who actually has bought the option or has the choice has the right, but which means the seller of the option, see, obviously somebody is buying a choice, somebody is selling a choice, right? So somebody who sold this option, right, has no right but an obligation. This is very important to understand. Right is only for the buyer of the option, obligation is for the seller of the option. Seller of the option has no right but all the obligation. So this is one point which I wanted to make here. Now, second point is, therefore, call option is a right to buy, right? This grid is going to be helpful. So if I say I want to buy an option, sell an option, and I want to buy a call or put. So this grid is buy call, this is sell call, buy put, sell put. So buy call, sell call, buy put, sell put. This is the grid, right? Now, here, this grid is important to understand, is that in the when somebody buys a call, it is a right to buy, right? When somebody buys a put, it is right to buy, a right to sell. When somebody sells a call, right? This grid, that means the buyer of the call has a right to buy, which means the seller of the call has an obligation to sell. Because if somebody else is buying, the option call option buyer is buying, then you are selling, right? So the obligation to sell. Similarly, seller of a put has an obligation to buy. Obligation to buy. So this is very important to understand. Right to buy. So call doesn't mean automatically buying. Whether you're selling that call or buying that call is what matters. Now, in an FX market like dollar rupee, when somebody says call, you have to keep in mind, call means buying, right? Somebody who's buying a call is buying. Buying what? Buying what? Against what? So because there are two currencies in a pair, if you buy dollars, you end up selling dollar rupee. And if you buy rupee, you end up selling dollars, right? Vice versa. So selling dollars means buying rupee and vice versa. So therefore, you have to be very clear in FX market, especially in the interbank market, when somebody says call, it is USD call slash INR put. This is the terminology. USD call, INR put. Because ultimately, if you are buying dollars, you are selling rupees. So it's put. Put is to sell, right? So USD call will automatically become an INR put. Similarly, a USD put will automatically become an INR call. And these are the terminologies that we have to be very clear about. In FX, this is primarily in the OTC market, interbank market, over the counter market, basically. Not an exchange. Exchange has a definition, so there is no real requirement of this definition every time. But OTC, this is the definition. Similarly, if somebody has Euro USD as pair, then call means Euro call on that pair, and so on. Right? So this is always the terminology. That's another thing that you want to be keeping in mind. Then, right, therefore, here in this grade, when somebody says call, right to buy, we always mean right to buy USD against INR. Right? Somebody says put, they talk about dollar put, which means right to sell USD. So everything is base currency is the primary anchor for the definition. Okay. Now, what is the difference between a future or a forward and an option? Future or a forward, right? In exchange, it's called future or forward.